Hi, I'm Steph Cordon. I'm the Director of Thriving Communities at Westmorland and Furness Council, and I'm the Chair of the Appleby Horse Fair MASCG, which stands for Multi-Agency Strategic Coordinating Group. And that's a group that brings together public sector organisations who have statutory and regulatory responsibilities that relate to Appleby Horse Fair, and our objective is to make it as safe as we possibly can and mitigate any of the more negative impacts on our communities. We also have our elected members from Westmorland and Furness Council and some representatives from the Gypsy Traveller and Roma community and Appleby Town Council that bring the voice of the community into MASS to make sure that people are heard. Part of our job is to listen to communities and to learn lessons from previous fairs. Planning for Appleby Horse Fair is a year-round job for MASC, and we're really keen to make sure that we listen and engage with our communities about where we can do things better to mitigate some of the negative impacts on our communities. And that's about phase one, which is the run up to the fair, which impacts communities around Appleby, and then phase two, which is the fair itself. So every year we write a learning lessons report at the end of every fair, and we set out a series of actions that we work towards. So looking at last year's fair, every fair is different, so it's really difficult to predict. And we definitely saw people arriving earlier than we have in previous years. We saw people moving into Appleby faster than we ever had. That had a positive impact for the Kirby Stephen community in particular, and we can't be definite on the reason for that, but we did see a lot of negative social media comments that were saying that people couldn't stay on the roads surrounding Kirby Stephen, which wasn't true. We did a small pilot of bunding on an area that was unsafe to make sure that people and their animals were not put into dangerous positions on the roads. But I think that message got blurred a little bit, and it became that people couldn't stay on the roads around Kirby Stephen. So we saw a much quieter time there. We saw quite a rapid influx into the Sedbergh community, but the police have taken a really proactive stance around Section 61 orders, and those were used really rapidly in Sedbergh, and we managed to move people out of those communities quite quickly. I won't talk too much about police activity because Dan St Quintin, who is the Gold Commander in the police, is also doing a similar video to this, so he will talk more about police activity. So I think the top three things that MASC has been working on collectively is the community engagement, which is a year-round initiative where we've committed to more drop-in sessions that our elected members run, as well as myself as chair of MASC, Mo Bibby from the police, one of the local neighbourhood inspectors, and Emma Brass, who's our public protection senior manager. We've been going round to the parish councils to talk about their experiences from last year and what we would do different next year. We've also updated our Appleby Fair website to give much more up-to-date information about what we can do as public sector organisations to make it factually correct. Last year, we had a really successful input of community action forms, which we asked people to fill in, and then MASC respond to them in real time. We meet daily to talk about the issues that our communities face during the run up to the fair and during the fair itself. What we didn't do last year was go back to the people that had put the forms in to tell them what actions we could undertake as a consequence. And we also didn't have a function to enable people to send in photos and attachments. So we've updated the forms this year to make them much more user friendly, and we've also committed to going back to people to tell them what we've actually done as a consequence, which is part of our commitment to listening and engaging with our community. So we would really encourage you to fill in those forms, because that gives us a really strong evidence base that we can work for, and that we're not a talking shop as MASCG. We are action focused, so where we can make a difference and we can do things within our regulatory and statutory powers, we do commit to do that. The next thing we've done, which is one of our priorities, is around engagement, education and enforcement. We've taken a really proactive stance about what we can do to address antisocial behaviour and keep our areas clean and tidy. So we've introduced a new public spaces protection order as Westmorland and Furness Council, which gives us more powers to deal with antisocial behaviour and littering. And we've also upped the amount of toilets and bins that we put out. And last year, where we saw a lot more people coming into Appleby earlier, where residents talked to us about the Monday felt like the Thursday, which is really different to previous years. We've committed to bringing forward our services to come out earlier so that we can pressure wash the streets a bit earlier, we can make sure we empty the bins earlier, we can make sure the toilets are out earlier, to try and give some extra confidence to the Appleby residents that we're trying to make this experience for them as positive as we possibly can do. I think as well as MASCG, we've done a lot of work as agencies about updating our risk assessments, which we all hold as individual organisations, but where are the touch points where we work together to make sure we can mitigate risk. Last year we put in some new temporary guardrails and a new pavement up at Flashing Lane, and that's been a massive success, which has been lauded by the Gypsy Traveller and Roma community as well as local residents. And we will continue to look at safety measures where we can put them in. We also put in some traffic calming measures for horses and sulkies that were coming down to the sands, and we had a much more orderly collection of sulkies being put in the right places to make it safer for people that gather around the sands to watch people washing their horses and generally have a good time. Other things we've done, we've made sure that we can lock the car park barrier at Appleby Leisure Centre, which we did last year to ensure that residents have got somewhere to park, and we will be doing that again this year. And again, big thank you to Appleby Town Council that help us with the comms messages out on that. That has really, really helped us. And in terms of other enforcement activities, I know that the market field is a big concern to some of our local residents, and we have committed to enforce where people are selling unsafe counterfeit goods, that we will come in hard and we don't tolerate that. Last year we did a very successful sweep at the market field, and those cases are still under investigation, but we have committed to come back this year to do exactly the same. Although we had a very busy year at the fair with more caravans than we've seen for some few years, we also unfortunately had 2 horse fatalities. We have a very significant animal welfare presence at the fair from a range of charities led by the RSPCA, and I can't say any more about the 2 incidents because they're still under investigation, but there was a full outright condemnation from the Gypsy Traveller Roma community and the animal welfare charities for the way that the horses had been treated. And highways continue to develop and produce a traffic management plan in close collaboration with the police and national highways, which sets out how we can make our roads and our congestion as best as possible, but we would ask people to not travel to Appleby if they don't need to. With the Travelling Man Festival, had about 300 people attending at any one time, and that was very well received, and that takes some of the pressure off the town. And we are working with the organisers of the Travelling Man Festival to look at how that would come back safely this year. We continue to work with our licensed premises to make sure that they give out good safety messages and they keep people safe where they're open in our communities. There has been questions from the local community over the last couple of years about whether Appleby Horse Fair could be a ticketed and organised event. And 2 pieces of work have been commissioned to answer that question. One, which is now published on the Appleby Fair website, didn't really give the conclusions that we were looking for. It gave us some good information that there wasn't an appetite out in the festival and event community for anyone to step forward to take this on, but it led to the council commissioning some specialist legal advice about what would be the ramifications for a legal, ticketed and organised event. And we're still waiting for the outcomes of that, but when it is available, we have committed to a public version of the legal advice being published on our website so that communities can see what that says. So there's nothing else I can say at the moment, but we will let you know as soon as we've got a version that we can share. I think I would finish by saying the key messages for MASCG is that we want to make sure this event is as safe as possible, and we will use our statutory and regulatory powers to do that. We recognise the historic and cultural significance of the fair to the Gypsy traveller and Roman community, but we also recognise that there are potentially negative impacts on our local communities. So we want to work hard with our communities to listen and engage, and where we can do things to make it easier and safer for people, that is our commitment. So I would encourage the Gypsy Traveller Roma community, please don't come too early. We know that puts a massive pressure on services and local residents, so please be considerate. And also, can we ask people to attend the local drop-in sessions to make sure that their voices are heard, and please complete any online forms throughout the fair so that we can respond as quickly as we possibly can.
Hello everybody, my name's Dan St Quintin. I'm Police Gold Commander for the police operation this year at Appleby Horse Fair, and I did the same role last year. Last year's operation was successful, and we're aiming to repeat those successes this year, but from the systematic learning I did last year on last year's operation, we've identified some key things that we can make things even better this year for the police operation. So listen to feedback, we intend to repeat the successes, and there will be that continuity of a similar strategy, a similar style and tone, and very similar people in the command structure for the police operation to ensure that we deliver on those successes that we had last year and repeat them. So we're going to have more engagement from some police officers, and we've also identified the changing behaviour of visitors coming to Appleby to ensure that we identify and give special attention to the emerging locations that we have in the Appleby area. So my intentions as Gold Commander this year are to keep people safe. Number one priority, absolute priority for any police operation. We're going to be working closely with partners and the communities as well, listening to feedback and identifying where we can do things better. We're going to proactively target the minority of people from all communities that come to Appleby and cause issues, commit crime or antisocial behaviour, and I make no apology for that. But it's from all communities, it's not just the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller community that do this type of behaviour. We're going to try and prevent as much crime as possible and have positive, targeted enforcement as far away from Appleby as possible to prevent troublemakers coming to the fair. And we'll also focus on road safety. Last year, we were really proactive in targeting criminals and ensuring that we enforced the law wherever we possibly could on the minority of people that came to the fair to commit crime. So last year we had 102 arrests in comparison to 2023 when we only had 42. We had 490 police incidents and we had 69 crimes last year. Again, those were a lot more than the previous year, but that's because we were more proactive and identified more crime that we dealt with. We had 221 stop searches and we seized 94 vehicles from Appleby Fair last year. 26 of those were stolen vehicles and the rest were, 68 of those were ones that we recovered that didn't have any insurance. So the incidents and note last year, you might want an update on those. So we had that sad, tragic death of the horse at Jubilee Bridge. One suspect has been identified from that. The RSPCA is leading on that investigation, and I'm hoping this year that that suspect will get brought to justice. We had a serious assault at Fair Hill last year, where a young lad was seriously injured. 2 suspects were identified as a result of that. All 3 of them are from Ireland. Unfortunately, the victim decided not to engage with the investigation, but all 3 of those people are in Ireland, and the 2 suspects are going to get given banning letters to prevent them from coming to the fair this year. And then lastly, we had a serious sexual offence where 1 suspect was locked up at the fair and 1 was locked up in Wiltshire, and that inquiry is still progressing as well as we support the victim in what happened there. Last year, one of the key successes was that we had a really cordial atmosphere, and that's because I think during the lead up to the fair we were really proactive in our policing approach to ensure that the troublemakers weren't coming to Appleby Fair last year. We intend to do the same this year. That enabled us to have a really relaxed atmosphere where people weren't looking over their shoulder thinking that troublemakers were coming. We prevented that and we intend to do the same. So by targeting the minority of criminals and troublemakers, we really set the tone, and the local community said the atmosphere reflects the way it was policed. So key messages this year I just want to get out are that the fire and ambulance commanders will continue to work at Appleby Police Station with myself and my Silver Commander, Superintendent Lee Skelton. That really helped with decision making and coordination of emergency responses last year. We're going to put additional CCTV and surveillance technology in the Appleby area and the surrounding area. Again, that's to help keep people safe, prevent troublemakers coming to the fair, and ensure that we can deliver an enjoyable fair for everybody, whether you're local, a visitor, or from the Gypsy Roma and traveller community. There'll be more visible and proactive policing in Appleby before the fair starts, because we recognise that we could improve that from last year. There's going to be closer attention to burrells and other sites that emerged last year that we've not come across before, to ensure that we apply policing there as well as the other areas that we're traditionally aware of. Media messaging is going to go out very shortly and has gone out previously around not arriving too soon to Appleby, and we want to listen to your views. I'm really keen to hear what's going on and identify what your concerns are before the fair, during the fair and after the fair. So if you've got issues during the fair, please report those through the electronic feedback system that we have. There'll be more details of that published. Thank you very much for watching this video. I'm interested to hear what your questions are during this pre-fair community meeting. If there's any concerns that you've got, please don't hesitate in coming forwards. I'll answer any questions as honestly as I can, and if there's anything that I can do to assist those issues, I'll do my best with those, and if not, I'll signpost you to other people in the room who can potentially help you better than I can. Thank you.